It was 1968. We bought a little bus, and pretty big little bus, and we painted it all up. And a bunch of us decided to go to Mexico, perform in the streets. We were so naive, so young. We thought that Mexico would meet us with open arms. It was the year the Olympics were to be in Mexico City. We drove down the east, into the Gulf, through Brownsville, Texas, into the Sierra Madre Oriental Mountains. Beautiful mountain. We came to a place, a little village, called San Luis Potosi. And we ran out of weed. Now, being the naive performers that we were, we said, let's go into town, see if we can score something. Well, my pacifist friend and I were wandering through the streets going, mota, mota. Right? And, well, sure enough, these two drunken cowboys and the caballeros were walking down the street with their pistols pointed towards their dicks. And they were drunk as hell. But as soon as they got close to us, we realized they were pretending to be drunk. They were cops. They flashed their badges, took their weapons out, pointed them at us. So they both grabbed our arms, and they're leading us somewhere. And the guy who's handling my arm nods, go ahead and run. I dare you. And I declined because he had a hair trigger on that damn pistol, and I knew he did. I wasn't ready to die. Well, he takes us to the prison. This is where we meet Hefe. 6'3", about the size of Dennis. Only had a big mustache, you know, and there was always chicharrones in his mustache. And he carried 5 weapons down to a little pearl-handled derringer in his boot. A bullwhip. This guy was bad news. Everyone, whoever talked to him sideways. They didn't dare look in the man's face because they were scared to death of him. After. Well, somehow they picked up on the fact that my partner was a pacifist. And down in Mexico, pacifism and homosexuality are one and the same thing. So they started beating him. Hefe beat my friend right in front of me. And I had just come back from Vietnam. I've been around the block a few times. So I get in Hefe's face and I say, I'm going to tear your head off and shit on your car. The more I did things like that, the more he said, ah, macho, peligroso, el tiburón, he calls me the shark, right? So the guards are watching this. So this guy's not only looking in his face, but he's calling him out. And he doesn't have weapons. And Hefe's got 5 of them and a bullwhip. Holy shit. So Hefe decides he likes me. So they put my friend and I in 2 separate cells, opposite ends of the hall. And I heard him, when he got in his cell, get beat up by these guys who were there because they wanted his clothes because it was cold at night. It went to 14 degrees, you know, sleeping on a stone floor, pretty chilly. Well, now if you have the money, you can rent a piece of cardboard to sleep on. You had to buy your own food. And this cell was about 18 by maybe 20 feet, and a really high ceiling, probably 15, 20 feet. At the top of this cell was a square window. Now you have to buy your own food in Mexico when you're in prison. We didn't have any money. We spent it on the weed. 3 joints we were arrested. So, but the Indians I was in my cell with were very generous. And when I first walked into my cell, what was on the wall? What, 1,000 pounds. One of them looked a lot like me. And here I am, a mime, in a cell in Mexico with a bunch of clown faces and these 3 Indians. Well, I made sure they understood right then and there that they weren't going to take my clothes. And we worked it out. But every day the sun would come through that window on the wall, crossing the 1,000 clowns. And we would all share equal distance of the sun, because that was the only sun we could get through that window every day, the sun. Well, it's around Christmas time, so it's pretty cold. So we're in this cell, and now Christmas rolls around, and the village decides to send up the most beautiful virgins from the village, hold baskets of fruit and nuts, and the ugliest old hags to pass it off to us. And the beautiful women were just a little out of reach. Boy, were we horny. Exquisite torture that was. Exquisite. Anyway, my status in the prison kind of became a celebrity status because I was the one who stood up to Heppy and got away with it. You know, and so Heppy now has me sitting in his office every day, which has a big doorway with bars in it. A doorway you can't go through. Plenty of sun coming through. And I got to sit there with my feet on his desk and bask in the sun all day. Well, first day I'm there, exactly 4 o'clock, the kid that would throw us our chicharrones through the window in the prison cell threw a rock through this doorway, and it knocked Heppy's hat off the hat rack. First time, every time, and exactly at 4 o'clock. Right? So there's this guy who speaks pretty good English, and he looks like a human rat. He's got big teeth, big bones. He's on constant lock and load with his machine gun. He's just waiting for me to make a false move. So I said to him on the 2nd or 3rd day, "What's the story here? Why at 4 o'clock is this hat being knocked off his hat rack?" And he said it was the son of one of the prisoners. And it was his way of saying he was going to kill Heppy. Well, this kid should have been found by the baseball people because he was a dead end with anything he threw. I always wondered who he was. So Heppy said to me, "I'll tell you what. I really like you, but you are hurting my position here." He said this. I said, "Well, when are we going to get our trial, Heppy?" He said, "We don't need no trial. You know you had it. I know you had it. So why do we need a trial?" Oh, fuck. Well, how long are we going to be in here, Heppy? As long as these strings wrap the pack. That's a politician's answer if I ever heard one. How long is that fucking string, you know? Well, he comes to my cell one night and he says, "I either have to kill you or I have to set you free." And while I was there, an American died of malnutrition and pneumonia and was taken out of the prison wee hours in the morning. And he brought him downstairs to the basement room, which was infamous for where he would torture people, do whatever he did. So he opens my cell door and he instructs me to follow him. And I go down the stairs with him and I say, all right, Happy, is this a fight? I'm ready. I'm pretty weak, but I'm ready. He said, no. And he took off all 5 of his guns, put them on the rack, put his whip over the rack, and he said, I will never forget you. But I must tell you, on the other side of this door is freedom. But there's a machine gun on the roof right above it. You better run fast. Boy, I found out how fast I could run that night. There were tracers coming all around me. I think he instructed them to not actually hit me, but they were close. And I ran. Now, I had been shot at before, so I knew exactly what that felt like, but this time it was clearly, get out of there. Well, our wives who were in the trailer park thinking that we were dead because we hadn't come back. They had gone to the prison and said, we were missing our husband. They said, well, there's no gringos here. They lied. So they thought we were dead. So they made friends with these wealthy Mexican cattlemen who knew the mayor. And they finally found us, brought us some money so we could eat. And this whole situation ensued. But finally I was released for no money. I think I'm the only American to ever be released from a Mexican prison without paying anything. Except a little stress, perhaps. Well, so we decided to go to Puerto Vallarta from there, which was just a little fishing village. What the tourists hadn't discovered is that this is the Gold Coast of Africa, right? I mean, of Mexico. And I remember we got this little house on the beach with a maid for just a few pesos. And it was a place I needed to rehabilitate. I had crabs and gout. I was a mess. My friend was still in there. I only was there for 8 weeks. My friend was in there for 9. And he went crazy there. He's in the mental hospital today in America because of his experience. I always regretted leaving him behind, but I didn't have any choice. We had actually talked to some federales. The mayor told us to contact in the next state down. Not federales, I mean bandidos. Same thing, really. But they wanted to charge us $1,000 a machine gun. We already knew of 3 of them. We didn't have that kind of money. Anyway, we went to Puerto Vallarta. We had this little house. And who shows up shortly after midnight but Neal Cassady / Dean Moriarty / Superman. In the middle of Mexico, he shows up. He's inordinately quiet. Now, if any of you know about Neal Cassady, you know that he was very verbose. Oh, the man talked non-stop, and everything he said was deep, profound. Just when you try to get a question in edgewise in his ongoing speedy monologue, he'd answer the damn question before he could answer. But he was quiet. And I think with hindsight, I think it's because he kind of intuited that he was near the end of his journey. Well, we were sitting in a bar, an outside bar one night with a hooker named Juanita. And it's around dusk. And Neal decides he's going to take a walk in the jungle. Well, back in those days, there were anaconda, there was jaguars, there was all kinds of poisonous insects and reptiles out there. And you just don't go in the jungle, not to mention, poachers, hunters, God knows what else, smugglers, anything. So we're sitting in this bar, Juanita and I. And in the middle of the night, we hear automatic gunfire. And I asked Juanita, well, what's the story? Oh, she said, we hear this all the time. No big deal. And I asked the proprietor, she said, yeah, it's hunters. Well, the sun comes up. Neal's still not back. I'm getting a little tired. I decided to go back to the house. Juanita goes back to her place. And 2 days later, the federales show up at my door. They say, we want you to come down to the station and identify us. They didn't tell me if it was dead somewhere. I thought, oh shit, Neal got in trouble. It's busted. And I went down there. And there he was, dead on the table with a white rubber cover over his body and his face. They pulled back the face part and said the jaguars had gotten a hold of him, that I was just to look at his face and identify him. It was Neal. And I broke down helplessly, weeping, somber. And I said, I really need some time with him for a little while, please. He was my best friend. Please. I had to beg because they didn't want to go. But they went out in the hall and left the door ajar. And I took a quick look at the rest of his body and it was still hurt. Which meant they knew that. And that they were part of what had happened to him. Somehow. Well, this was a heavy revelation for me to have because now I'm in danger. Did they see me pull that cover back? I don't know. They seemed not to have. So I went back to my house and my first wife called Carolyn Cassady and told her what had happened. And Carolyn said, well, I'm sending you money so you can send his body back to me in Oakland. So that was our instruction from the police. They asked me to come back to the station the following day to talk to the coroner. And when I got there, the coroner had been long gone, and all they had was a jar full of ashes. Here's your friend. No evidence. I'm sure the bullets were taken out of the ashes. But if they had made his body. At any rate, that's the true story of Neal Cassady. And that story of WikiLeaks, I don't know who brought that one up, but there are no railroad tracks in Colorado or anywhere near it. And that's where he died, because I saw his body. That is the truth. Very nice.
Yeah. Solidarity.
You. We're all first state people, huh? Let's see what you got.